I don't know what to do with this game. I don't know how I'm going to go about reviewing this thing. 6 years I'd been looking forward to this game. 6 years. Back in 2016, there was these little videos that started floating around the interwebs about this thing called HK Project. And it was just a little kitty cat traversing its way around the future city. And I saw them, and I thought, man, this is a great concept. I would love to play this one day. And it got its 15 minutes and just kind of disappeared. You know how these things do. And life happens. I'm raising families and kids and, work and, life. So I'd completely forgotten this thing even existed. Then, 2 years ago, Sony releases a little announcement trailer for a game called Stray, about a little kitty cat traversing its way around a future city. And I remember. And I was so happy. It's like, yes, they're finally going to release this thing. I get to play as a cat and be a jerk and knock over stuff. And it's great. And I was looking forward to this game. And it finally releases, and I got a chance to play it. And the entire time I played through it, I had a stupid grin on my face and loved every moment of it. And I was ready to prepare this glowing review on this amazing game that I had just played. And as I was recording the footage and listening to what I was saying, everything started to fall apart. The whole thing was trash and I had to scrap the entire project. Because this game is amazing. Until I really stopped to think about it. Now I like to take a bit of a different approach on how I go about reviewing a game. I'm not going to go through that checklist, graphics check, gameplay check, controls check, sound design, whatever. I'll leave that up to other reviewers. I want to focus more on how I felt as I played it. And that's, I guess, where the problem is here. My first playthrough was an absolute joy. I was having such a great time just being a cat. Climbing all over stuff, knocking things off of ledges, generally just being a jerk. And the game does such a great job of this. Until about halfway through. You see, the game starts off really, really strong. You're jumping over rooftops, you're climbing up the side of buildings, you're doing all this cat stuff. There's this lovely little chase sequence where you're running away from these, like my son affectionately refers to them, potato monsters that are trying to eat you. And everything just feels natural. Then you get to the hub city, and for a little while you're doing what are essentially NPC fetch quests, but you're still doing them in a cat way. There's a great sense of verticality as you're trying to get from one rooftop to another to access an area, and there's still that I'm a cat doing cat things here. But then you get to the point where you do a mission and you're essentially handed a gun to deal with the potato monsters. And this is where things start to unravel. Admittedly, you only get that gun for this small sequence, and it ends on a great chase as your gun breaks and you need to run away from these things before they swarm you. However, you can tell that something just wasn't working anymore with this game. You get to the next hub city, and it looks more or less the same. Absolutely gorgeous, neon lit streets, NPCs walking around, but now that sense of verticality is all gone. It's pretty much long streets that branch off, and that's pretty much it. And you're still doing the fetch quests like you were in the first hub, but without that sense of verticality, it just turned into go here, get this thing, bring to them. Go there, grab this thing, bring to them. And that whole I'm a cat feeling was all but gone. They did try a little bit. There was this one mission where you knock something on top of someone else to wake them up. Whatever. But for the most part, I could have just been some dude in armor doing this. The very fact that I'm a cat was all but gone. And on top of that, The potato monsters are gone at this point. You no longer interact with them. And the enemies have now been replaced with these drones with cameras on them. And you have to avoid them or hide in boxes so they don't see you. Standard stealth gameplay. It's all cute that they have a box that you could get inside of. You know, cats go in boxes, lol. But they were very generic sequences. Then more stuff happens, and you go to the next area, and the game just ends. And even at the end of the game, they still had a few interactions where you're still doing cat-like things, scratching at panels or walking over keyboards, you know, things a cat would do. But by then, the whole thing had just devolved into walking simulator. Given everything I've said so far, you'd think this is a pretty straightforward review. I've talked about the game a little bit, I've mentioned its flaws. Seems like I think it's a mediocre game. Simple as that. Hit upload, think of some stupid little catchy title like Stray. You feel like a cat every meow and then. Something stupid like that. But that just wasn't the case. The fact of the matter is, as I was actually playing through the game, I didn't even realize any of these issues even existed. I was having an amazing time. This was one of the best games I'd ever played. There were times where I was thinking to myself, this is Game of the Year material. This is incredible. It wasn't until after, when I sat down to prepare the review, that these little issues started to pop up. And I don't know how that happened. Maybe I was too caught up in this cute little story on how I'm gonna get my kitty cat out of this prison city and help my robot buddies along the way. Maybe the game was too short for me to even notice because it was moving me from sequence to sequence to sequence, and I never had time to actually think about these flaws. That is a testament to just how great this game is. It has issues. Some of them may be considered significant, but I was too busy enjoying myself to even notice them. As far as the review checklist is concerned, it ticks all the boxes. Gorgeous graphics, tight controls, excellent level design, a wonderful little story, and the soundtrack. Oh my, I normally don't even notice soundtracks in video games. This game has one of the most amazing soundtracks I have ever heard in any game. The music shows up at just the perfect moment to set the right mood and fits the atmosphere perfectly. Some of the tracks in this game, and I say this as the highest of compliments, sound like they may have actually been made by a sentient robot. Given the context and story of this game, this is quite an achievement. Top-notch stuff, and it has to be mentioned. All these things come together to make an amazing game that I strongly recommend. If you're a cat lover, forget about it. Pick up this game yesterday. If you're not a fan of cats necessarily, I still recommend it. It is a fascinating experience. If you're a dog person, maybe? Still a great game. I still recommend it. Go get this game. Right meow.